Those of you that have been following me this year know that I had a Riverside 920 touring, a bike that I bought specifically to ride the southern part of the European Divide Bikepacking trail. I was very impressed with the value of that bike and ended up buying this 520 to use as a commuter bike. It felt like a great idea to have two bikes that could share a lot of components and yet be built up differently for different uses. Well, long story short, me being me, I couldn't resist starting to modify the 520 and now have almost finished turning it into a classic long distance tourer. The original bike is basically strong and reliable, and I have modified it to suit my type of touring better, as well as trying to make sure it would be ready to head out on a world tour on short notice. So, what have I changed? The frame is the same one as on the Riverside 920 touring, with the exception of having an aluminium fork rather than a carbon one. That's fine, as I intended the bike to be an expedition bike and felt that an aluminium fork should prove to be more reliable and stand up to abuse better than a carbon one. The frame, the same as the 920, proved itself on the European Divide, and I quite like the geometry and size. As I said, I tend to end up on rough tracks and felt that the original wheels were a bit too narrow. Not only that, the rims were not tubeless ready, something that I've come to consider to be as being a necessity on a gravel, touring or mountain bike. But I did want to keep the front dynamo as it's proven very useful out on the European Divide, so I simply decided to use the wheels from the 920. Wider, tubeless, and they fit right in, dynamo and all. One thing that did have to go were the mudguards. While it's nice not to get wet and dirty while on gravel and paved roads, my experience on the European Divide helped to strengthen my belief that there are just too many situations when they get in the way. On muddy tracks and roads, they get packed with sticky mud and are much more of a hindrance and a nuisance than anything else, especially with the wider rims and tyres that I've upgraded to. The tyres are the original Swabi Thunderbird from the 920, and I'll keep using them mounted tubelessly to start with. I might consider changing to something else if I decide to head out on a long trip, but I'll leave that decision to when I know what type of terrain I will be heading into. The gearing is the original 11-speed Microshift setup. It works great, is compatible with Shimano mountain bike stuff if I need parts, and I prefer the simplicity of a one-by drivetrain. What I would like to do that I haven't got around to yet is to fit a smaller front chainring. I think a 30 or 32 would be preferable, depending on the type of terrain I was planning to cover. I'm not too fussed with not having a very high gear, as long as I have one that is low enough on long and trying bikepacking days. I would also like to change the bottom bracket for a higher quality one, but I'll do that first when the original one starts to complain. The brakes have been changed as well. The hydraulic ones have been swapped for some Avid BB7 mechanical disc brakes. I've used these previously on my Surly Troll and covered almost 10,000 kilometres bikepacking and touring through Europe, and know that they are both reliable, easy to service, and, importantly, work well. The 520 comes with a rear rack that is rated for 40 kilos, more than enough, but for a proper expedition bike, I wanted either a set of low rider racks or a proper front rack as well. The Decathlon offer a very solid front rack. It's rated to carry 20 kilos and has the benefit over low rider racks of being a proper rack with a top platform and not only mounting points for front panniers. The other major change I've made is fitting alternative handlebars. I've been wanting to try some Jones loop bars for a while and finally found a copy of them made by Chinelli, and so far I'm very happy with them. Comfortable and offering a whole range of different hand positions for those long days in the saddle. Yeah, the saddle is changed too. Naturally to a Brooks leather saddle. After all, thousands of long distance tourers can't be wrong. That's about it. In this configuration, I would not have any qualms about loading it up and heading out on just about any expedition or world tour. Just a matter of deciding what panniers and or bikepacking bags to fit, packing the equipment and checking the map. But as I've alluded to earlier, I am thinking about a new long-term project and it's probably one of the few that needs a different bike. So the 520 is for sale, but I'm not in a hurry to get rid of it, and I would be very happy to just keep it if the right buyer doesn't show up.